The hottest new trend is here, and it's got everyone talking.
What's spreading quick and makes you sick, infecting everyone? It's worldwide and many have died, but so much fun. You start to cough, then pass it off, and no one knows what to do but wash and clean and quarantine for Wuhan flu. Corona, the virus infecting us all. Corona, corona, you cough and shake then fall. There is no cure, it's not secured, pandemic soon begins. But don't be scared, just stay prepared when panic settles in. It's growing fast, so wear a mask, buy plenty of extra food. But don't wait long, it's soon to be gone, and now you're screwed. Corona, corona, the virus infecting us all. Corona, 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 infecting everyone. Corona, corona, the worst is yet to come. Everyone's got corona, you're gonna get it too. Come on and get corona, Wuhan flu.
The coronavirus, brought to you by...
There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, my trusty co-host, Ayrton. How you doing today, buddy?
Oh, pretty good. You know, it was a nice, quiet day today. How about you?
I just need to know, would you fuck your friend in the ass for money?
Depends on which friend and how much money.
Okay, good answer. With us today in the virtual studio is special guest Mr. Scott Payne of Chaotic Flux on Indiegogo. How you doing tonight,
pal? Good. How are you?
I've been better, but it costs more. Is my generic answer on that?
I'm wondering though, how desperate do you have to get, how money-wise, especially with all this going on, for you to have to fuck your friend in the ass?
As soon as the cigarettes run out. That's basically when desperation kicks in for everybody. You're blowing mutants in back alleys for hand rolls. It's terrible.
Hopefully it never comes to that.
Well, give it another week, depending on what state you're in. Anyway,
well, Philip Morris shut down their production in Virginia.
Did they?
Oh, wow.
There's shortages of Marlboros and stuff. Yeah.
Wow. You know the world's coming to an end when Philip Morris decides, well, I'll take a break on my money. I'll take a break. I'll turn my money machine and go brr off,
Yeah.
I'll stop peddling cancer for a little while, just till this all blows over. It'll be great. But, no, that's insane. I didn't know about that. I've been unplugged from Corona Chan, but I'm reinvigorated. Obviously, it's the only thing on anybody's mind right now. I do want to talk about your book, Chaotic Flux, and especially Chaotic Flux Issue 2, Aliens vs. Monsters Part 2. So I've got that pulled up in the background. We'll pull that up. We'll look at the Indiegogo campaign. Just browsing it, I really like the art style. It's very comics. It doesn't seem pretentious. It doesn't seem posh. It gets the job done, and it works really well within the color palettes. But we'll get to that. I'll pull it up on screen. I really love the monsters, though. It actually reminds me of a friend of the show, Rob. Good job, Rob, on Twitter.
He's a horrific monster.
He does draw a lot of horrific monsters, and he has drawn himself as one. So yes,
awesome.
But
wow, that's awesome.
Anyway, we typically have a standard slew of questions to ask people, but I figured this would be a little bit more of a laid back show. I'll probably get some of those in. But why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, sir, and let's get this started off in that particular fashion.
Okay. I'm Scott Payne, and I have been developing this story called Chaotic Flux for about 20 years, slowly building the ideas, piecing it all together. At first, it started out as well. I should say I'm a big '90s X-Men fan, in early 2000s. I would like to still be an X-Men fan today, but that's a whole other thing.
You're in good company.
I
Don't feel bad.
Well, you're
so
not a
I
fan of
wanted to develop a
bisexual
comic that
Wolverine.
was. I don't even know what's going on there. I just and not even that. The fact that they made him not, he doesn't smoke anymore. I'm like, he has a healing factor. He cannot die. I get you don't want kids smoking, but come on. Anyway, so I developed this story for 20 years. I wanted to make a story that is in the vein of X-Men, a very team type comic, but where the team's very diverse because the X-Men is very diverse in terms of like you got Nightcrawler. Or it's blue skin to teleport, Colossus Metal's skin, and Wolverine claws, and Jean Grey with her telekinetic stuff. All these interesting, diverse characters. So I started coming up with characters and developing powers and background stories and origin. I mean, all these things. And when I really started fleshing out this team, I was like, okay, well, who are the villains? And I really like big, horrific, terrifying monsters.
Okay.
Like real crazy monsters. So then I came up with the idea for the Dread Fiends. I'm also a big fan of Resident Evil and the monsters from that series.
Okay.
These kind of things that are ever changing and evolving and getting more terrifying and more difficult to take down. So that's kind of where the main idea for the Dread Fiends came from. Create these kind of ultimate super monsters. And I also had the idea for this guy named Malakar, who is this dark entity. He's actually made up of all the dark thoughts and hatred that's fueled by man. And he's just another plane of reality. And in order to interact with our reality, he has to possess someone. He possesses a young man named Gabriel and uses him as a vessel to. Okay, so Malakar's goal is to end his own existence. He hates his own existence, and he believes the only way to do that is to eradicate the entire human race. So these are your main villains. And I like fantasy elements as much as I do sci-fi, so I want to incorporate that as well. So there's all these different things going on that I really wanted to put into the story, but it all had to fit right. So it took me a while to get all the pieces to fit just right and not feel disjointed. So that's one of the reasons why it took me quite a while to come up with the story, as well as really flesh out the characters' backstories, the main heroes, and their powers. But also, I procrastinated for years. Played a lot of video games, read a lot of comics. Hung out with my friends way too much. Did a lot of drugs in my early days. Yeah,
we just call that research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So I finally sat down a couple years ago and said, "Okay, I'm ready now. I got it all figured out. Let's see if I can write a script," because that was really number one as far as like making that leap. Can I write a comic book script, and can I write a good one? So I researched how to write comic book scripts and sat down and started writing. Next thing you know, script's done. Ran through some drafts, hired some artists, and here we are today. So Chaotic Flux centers on a team called the Crimson Flame. They're a group of unique heroes who unite in the future to rid the world of these creatures called Dread Fiends that have started to take over. The Dread Fiends themselves are these kind of mutant abominations that are man-made.
Okay.
They weren't intended to be mutant abominations. They were intended to be a food source. In this dark future that the timeline happens in, there's a lot of catastrophic events going on with the weather patterns, as well as a lot of war going on, fighting over land, fighting over resources. So there's a lot of food shortage, and scientists create these life forms by splicing different organisms together to create something that can withstand the harsh elements, but also reproduce at a rapid rate, but also be a food source. At first, they were very docile, easy to control, but then they started to self-mutate and develop this insatiable appetite where they have to constantly feed to sustain themselves.
Oh.
And so they turn against humanity and start feeding on us, and they start spreading rapidly and taking over the world. When they feed on flesh, they have the ability to adapt on the fly. They'll take that as a biofuel, break it down as a biofuel, use that as an energy to make themselves, for instance, bigger, stronger, wings for flight, wherever they need to get the upper hand in battle. So very adaptive, very surprising, catch you off guard kind of creatures. They can also reproduce by when they devour something, break it down, they'll clone themselves, regurgitate that clone, and it'll quickly grow into adult form. That's how they spread so fast.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you played Parasite Eve during that hiatus.
Yep. I love that series too. Yep, definitely. Yeah, I love crazy, gruesome, shocking monsters, and that's exactly what the Dread Fiends are. I wanted to create these kind of ultimate biological, life forms in terms of something you just do not want to run into, and something that pushes their heroes to their absolute limits. As I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of the '90s X-Men. Well, I'm particularly a big fan of Age of Apocalypse.
Wow, yeah.
That's probably one of my most favorite comic book storyline.
It's a favorite here on the show as well.
Go ahead.
We've been trying to organize a show where where we can go over Age of Apocalypse. But when does Samus arrive? Says Full
I would
Blast
love to
Forever.
join that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, Full Blast Forever in the chat says when does Samus join? Dillard draws. Are you familiar with Dillard, Mr. John Dillard of the?
Oh, is he in our chat now? What are you?
Of course, he's in the chat.
Dillard, what are you doing?
Are you familiar with Dillard draws at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think
Not
he's.
that I can recall.
I think he's intentionally being taking the piss, as we call it. He says he has a question. What makes you so special? Why should we care that you're making a comic? And I have a second question. What is it about you that you think you're smart enough to write a story to hold our interest for even a second? So feel free to acknowledge or ignore those as you see fit.
Well, I'm like a absorbing machine when it comes to comic books, movies, TV shows, video games, with adventurous, crazy storylines, and I think of myself as this. I've taken all these numerous of these things, anime as well, manga, and I've pulled from a lot of these things that I love over the years. And I think I've really created something quite unique here, something very special in terms of mixing all those things together and making them the right combination of eye catching and interesting. But it's just kind of like I said, I love all these things, and I have this bold heart of wanting to give people a story very much in the vein of all those things. So I don't know, that's kind of my thinking in terms of like how I think of myself. Like, I mean, I'm not like trying to say I'm the best creator ever, but like I said, I love and adore these things, and I really wanted to create a story that does homage to all of that, as well as gives everybody something different, something unique, and fun, and very much enjoyable. And it's just straight up awesome sci-fi, fantasy, horror, action, with a lot of good world building and very complex characters.
Now, I see that the campaign we've got pulled up on screen here is issue 2. So I hate to say I missed issue 1. It flew under the radar. There were a lot of books going around. I think I may have seen something about it in passing, but unfortunately we weren't familiar with one another, and I didn't have a chance to see that campaign. How well did Chaotic Flux 1 do? What was your experience with that crowdfunding? How quickly did you start this one afterwards?
Right. Well, the first campaign, I was asking for 6,000 on that one.
Okay.
Is the goal. I did not reach it. I got 4,500 and I think $1.
All right.
But it didn't matter. I thought it was a pretty good start, and it was good enough to where I went on ahead and fulfilled anyway. Everyone got their book. I printed and got the book out to everyone. And the same thing was going to happen with this campaign as well. I actually went for a lower goal on this one. I went for 5,000. And as you see, we did hit that and went over, and so I feel really good about that. That it is building momentum. It's growing. I also did quite a few conventions. I did 3 big conventions this last year, and did really well at those. So a lot of the books there. So the fan base is growing. It's getting attention, which feels great. So hopefully, provided this this beer bug doesn't get too much more wild in terms of affecting the economy, that it will continue to grow, especially with issue 3 coming. I had released issue 1 last year.
Scott, real quick, I got to stop you right there. We are a very politically correct stream. You said you had seen our show in the past. We prefer Hong Kong Fluey when talking about the coronavirus. I'm fucking with you.
You got me thinking of the dog, the karate dog.
That's right. That's the idea.
The old cartoon.
Number one superbug, Hong Kong Fluey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah. But anyway, continue. I was fucking with you there.
Okay. But I'll go back to the comic quick. So the Crimson Flame, the teaming heroes, the leader of the Crimson Flame is Soren, who's an exosuit pilot who fights this exosuit called the Reaper. It's all kinds of really badass weaponry. You get introduced to him in issue 1. There's also Strife, who's a big transforming AI mecha. So I'm a big fan of, like I said earlier, anime. So I'm a big fan of Gundam. I'm a big fan of Transformers. So of course I had to have exosuit guy, and I had to have big transforming mecha type AI robot. So there's Strife. He turns into all sorts of things. He can actually self-engineer as long as he has the materials to make whatever he needs, weaponry wise, or any kind of machinery. He can do that. For instance, in the first issue, you see him transform from a giant transport ship for the team. He also turns into a bombardment mode in the first issue. He'll turn into all sorts of different things as the series goes on. He's like this big ultimate support unit for the team.
He's like Danny the Street.
And then there's also Sathara.
Did you get that?
The street.
Danny the Street. He's an actual street. That is his superpower. At one point, he was Danny the Bus. He was Danny the Ambulance. Danny the Brick. But nothing he ever was really ever useful except maybe the bus and the ambulance. But being a street really didn't help him out too much.
Kind of reminds me of the Wonder Twins. They weren't all that useful.
Oh no! The Wonder Twins just didn't know how to use their powers.
From Super Friends.
Yeah, the Wonder Twins just didn't know how to use their powers. I mean, you turn into a giant gorilla and make him start throwing ice shurikens or some shit, right? But
exactly.
But no. Anyway, sorry.
Then there's also Sathara.
Okay.
It's okay.
No, go ahead.
It's alien hybrid.
Yep.
With this kind of sky blue skin and red hair. She's able to form these crystal-like structures at will. As she can form all kinds of different types of weaponry, so she can make like these blade arms to fight with, axes, throwing daggers, whatever she needs. Pretty much whatever she can imagine, she can form it out of these crystals, different shapes. She'll also use it to create weaponry for her allies as the series goes on. And she has an interesting ability too with that, where she sends out these kind of waves that can shatter the crystals. So it basically turns into like little bombs, and she uses that in a really interesting way in the series. Later comes in Gareth, who's a huge 8-foot tall swordsman with a giant transforming sword. There's also Nalaria, who's a fire-based mage, and Pagan, who's a plant-based mage. And that makes up the Crimson Flame. The first issue centers on Zathara, gets into her backstory, how she's been hunted down by an organization called the Purging Hand most of her life, right, who's been trying to wipe her kind out for years, as well as is that anything not of Earth, anything not natural of Earth should be eradicated. So they've been trying to wipe her kind out for a long time, as well as in the present, they're now fighting against the Dread Fiends. And the first issue also gets into her first run-in with the Dread Fiends. And then in issue 2, we jump into this life or death situation, this race against time, where Zathara has to save and his family from becoming Dread Fiend's next meal. And if you guys are curious about, can you get the first issue in the certainly can. You can add on the first issue if you missed it to any of the issue 2 tiers. And for instance, you can get issue 1 and 2 as a digital version or PDF for $8, and that's 54 pages of story. You can also get the physical versions, both of them, for $25, and that's with shipping.
All right.
That's my $25 deal. I know a lot of Indiegogos do the $25 deal. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's overall probably the most popular pick for a lot of people. And that kind of brings us back around to issue 2, which we've got the Indiegogo pulled up for here. The link for which is in below the description down below. You can also follow Scott on Twitter from there, so check him out. This one starts off. It kind of gives you a brief intro. It looks like you've got a trailer here attached. Is this the actual trailer for Chaotic Flux 2 attached to the Indiegogo? Or is that just okay? Cool. I'll go ahead and play that here. So. Ayrton, that's on the Indiegogo page if you want to pull that up, or I can just kind of play it and we'll roll with it.
I'm getting there.
Okay. Let me know when you got it ready.
The first one?
Yeah, the first video that pops
That's
up.
the first one.
Okay.
Alright, you ready? I'm going to hit play in 3, 2, 1. Minute 12 seconds. It's starting up. There we go. Alright. So that's the actual trailer there, and when you look, oh come on, why did I just close the wrong window? Because I'm a professional and I know exactly what I'm doing. It says the Thara is on a race against time to save an innocent family from a horrific mutant abomination, and Chaotic Flux centers on a group of unique heroes, basically what you just told us there, unite in the future to rid the world of flesh-devouring mutant abominations that come to be known as the Dread Fiends. That particular plot, it reminds me a lot of the first couple of chapters of Guyver, where the mutants or the mutates or whatever they were, the company that created them took over the world, and you had the Guyver standing between them in a post-apocalyptic setting. But again, these guys are a lot more intimidating than the humanoid side mutates of the Guyver series. So, again, I really like the design of the monsters themselves. It's kind of like Doomsday and the Kraken had a baby with H.P. Lovecraft, Twisted Imagination.
Yeah.
And
I kind of how I designed them. I went online and on Pinterest, and I looked up different monster ideas, designs, very certain ones. Like, for instance, if I like the head on this one, or if I like the arms and such and so forth, and I gave all those to my artist, and I said, "Well, okay, so this is kind of what I'm going for. Like, I like the head on this one, and so on and such." And I also said to him, "Imagine going down a dark alley and seeing the most horrific thing, most horrific monster you've ever seen in your life that will make you want to run the other way and never look back." And that's how we got the Dread Fiends, pretty much. As far as their design and look.
That makes sense.
Mission accomplished on that one.
Thank you.
So Chaotic Flux 2
I would shit somebody else's pants if I saw one of these in a dark
Chaotic Flux number 2.
And that's just their basic design, too, their basic form. They can I don't want to say spoil too much, but they can transform dramatically as well, and you will see that in the series. They get more crazy and insane. So that's all I'm saying.
So do you have a drug budget for your artist so he can come up with these crazy ideas?
No, I'm pretty sure that he's pretty clean.
That's
Just
again,
regular stand-up guy.
That's against the Indiegogo terms
I
of
mean,
service.
I could be wrong,
but anyway, going back down through this. Thank you, Ayrton, for that.
You're welcome.
Issue number 2 picks up where issue number 1 leaves off, focusing on the Thara, an alien-human hybrid. You can form crystal-like structures. You explained that to us. And is thrust into a tense race to get the time to save a family from becoming. The Dread Fiend from issue 1 continue to give the Tara hell, constantly adapting and outsmarting her. She gave it her all before time runs out. Can the Thara, the gifted alien-human hybrid warrior, outdo the beast, or is all hope lost?
well read.
Calm down.
Wait, so are you saying this is a strong female character who's not instantly just perfect and good at everything? She actually has to struggle?
Oh, no, she's extremely OP. She's the total Mary Sue to the bone.
Oh, okay. All right, so
she's the next Rey. She's the next Rey Skywalker. Yeah.
Well, that concludes this episode of the Gospel of Comics, ladies and gentlemen. I definitely appreciate everybody coming out. I can't work
underneath emphasize Skywalker enough.
I haven't had enough whiskey for this. By the way, what is our esteemed guest indulging on this evening?
What's that?
What are you indulging in this evening? Your libations of choice.
I was drinking a little bit of whiskey sour.
Okay, all right. What brand of whiskey? That's the important question.
I don't remember. My wife just put it together for me a minute ago.
Okay.
Whatever she bought, I don't know.
I have a Lagavulin 9-year from the Game of Thrones Lannister edition, and it tastes like a campfire in my mouth, and it's wonderful.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, Arcanus in the chat correct me. It's Zoanoids, not mutates. It's hard to keep it all straight in your head. I mean, everything is basically a borrowed trope of a borrowed trope at this point. So, trying to keep up with them all is a fool's errand if there ever was one. But
yeah, I almost think it's impossible to come up with something completely like 100% original nowadays. Like you said, everybody's come up with, just about everything.
No, I've got it. You get
pretty close. You can get close.
I've got it. What we'll do is we'll have a tragic character, right? And the tragedy of his character is that he lost both of his parents at a young age, right? Walk with me now. Mm-hmm. He lost both of his parents, and he invested his entire life to becoming the smartest, most athletic detective / athlete and gymnast that you could imagine. And he dresses up as a winged nocturnal creature to fight crime in his hometown. And then what we'll do is we'll take his character after we've built him up to be this knight in shining armor, and we'll completely deconstruct the character, and we'll call it we'll call it the Black Knight Comes Back. That's original, right? That's never been done before.
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that before.
Yeah, no.
We'll call him the Barn Owl.
Yeah, boy. All right. So,
me of Watchmen, the owl and that.
Yeah. That's exactly.
He was pretty much they're his Alan Moore's take on Batman. Yeah.
All right, so that pretty much is most of the campaign. It's really short and sweet on the words there. You don't overwhelm them with a lot of information. So just scroll down here, and then the mind.
Yeah, I had more stuff.
Well, you do have an introduction here for the team.
I had more stuff up top, but
yeah, pages sell. Mm-hmm. Pages sell more than words. My name is Scott Payne.
I had more, but Malin.
Go ahead.
Malin was giving me pointers on a show a little while back, and he was saying don't put too much at the top. You know, you don't want. Cause basically, the way he put it is, most people when they go on to Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever, campaigns or so many things to look through. You know, you basically that, and everyone's got other things going on in their lives. The way he put it is, you pretty much have like a couple minutes to catch their attention, and then that's it. So if you put a whole like 3 or 4 paragraphs at the top or whatever, and they have to read through that, they're not going to do that, and you're going to lose their attention. So he said just keep it short and sweet at the top, and then slam them with page art, and then at the bottom you can put some stuff. But so I took his advice, and it's worked pretty well so far.
Yeah, it definitely pulls you in. But my name is Scott Payne. I've been a huge comic book fanatic for most of my life. I've wanted to be a comic book creator ever since I can remember, but I've always felt that I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it big. With that, I've been building on this story and world for 20 years. Chaotic Flux is my huge mega force, a grand culmination of ideas, story elements, characters influenced by many things that I have loved throughout my life. Chaotic Flux is a passion of mine that I want nothing more than to get it into readers' hands. Now, that brings up probably my most asked question to creators. It's one that I always try and get in when I have a new creator on. Obviously, you talked about like 90s X-Men, and you definitely shown where that was a huge influence and probably a major reference point for how you set your story up. What other comic books inspired you not only for this story, but to just get into comic books? What were you reading when you were a kid? What flipped that switch in your head when you were younger?
Right. Let's see. I was pretty well into Spider-Man in my earlier days. I still, later years as well. And let's see. Batman, huge Batman fan. Or was it the Black Knight? Was it you said earlier?
That's right.
But
the Black Knight comes back.
You're right. Big Batman fan. I don't want to say so much it's influenced Chaotic Flux a whole lot Batman wise, but yeah, I love Batman books, or I have a ton of those still today. Dark Knight Returns is one of my most favorite stories, as well as Batman Hush.
Hush was good. Yep.
And let's see, yeah. Big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. Big fan of Thanos in particular.
So you like
see.
Jim Starlin's work. Like that's where you're at on the Marvel spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You liked a lot of what Jim Starlin did with the space stuff. A lot of people don't have as much respect for Marvel space stuff as they do for DC, because DC kind of tied it in really well with the Green Lantern Corps. Like everybody associates the Green Lanterns with being like a Justice League mainstay, but they existed to tie in the galaxy spanning baddies and give them a reason to be targeting Earth, to constantly be involved in Earth affairs. Like it bridged the gap where you really didn't have that. I mean, I guess Shield to a certain extent, and Sword and all of those groups all tried, but there was never like you never really got to fit Quasar or Captain Marvel or the Guardians of the Galaxy in with the Avengers.
Right, like you said, it would have helped if they had, in terms of that. Which I'm a big. I love how the earlier Avengers for sure, but it would have helped a lot if they had a more intergalactic member of the team, like you said, like Green Lantern was a member of the Justice League for a long time, and he opened that door up them really easy. Whereas you look at the movies too. It took them a while to get to the intergalactic stuff in the films, Guardians and what have you. But they could have opened that door really early if they had, more of an intergalactic character. The closest they had is Thor, and he's more just Asgard,
Right, it's more of a mythical thing than a sci-fi thing. You really need like a Nova, or a Star-Lord, or just really those are the big two that I could feel might actually work. And Star-Lord doesn't really work as well on a team as they make him sound like in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like he's kind of an asshole.
Right. Well, plus, Star-Lord, his whole story where he didn't grow up on Earth. I mean, as a child, but he didn't really grow up on Earth, and
Right.
he doesn't have that connection so much with Earth, other than the fact that he is human.
Right.
Uh,
Anyway,
And who really cares about Nova?
I'm getting in the weeds here. So you said Thanos, you said Guardians of the Galaxy, Batman, Spider-Man.
Deadpool, big fan of Deadpool.
Okay.
Even early Deadpool, before he got really funny. Oh, well, all the X-Men books, freaking X-Force, Excalibur, X Factor, Generation X. Not so much Generation X, but they weren't bad. But I really like the Age of Apocalypse version of Generation X. That was interesting.
Do you
But
do you remember the television?
And then Battle Chasers.
Do you remember the television 1 hour special that they did for Generation X back in the day?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I downloaded that. I downloaded that from a completely legitimate source.
I found it on
for
YouTube.
sale.
Like someone posted it like a while back, and you can just watch it on there.
Yeah, I downloaded it and I found it a while back 'cause I didn't know it was on YouTube, and I downloaded it from a completely legitimate.
Well, this was just
source.
recently.
We don't support piracy on the Gospel of Comics by any means. We never put an eye patch on to go find something.
Right.
But no, I was thinking about that. I remember watching it when I was a kid, and it seemed so good. And I watched 10, 15 minutes of it, and I'm like, oh, this is
Right,
so
exactly,
terrible.
yeah.
This is
Well,
the
Well,
worst.
the reason why it felt so good back then, we didn't have anything else. You had the Loft Laundering Punisher movie.
Mhm.
You had
Michael Keaton's Batman.
and was there one more other Marvel movie they did back then?
Well, you had all the live action Marvel shows too, like the Captain America show, the Hulk show, the Thor movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the cartoons and yeah.
No,
But,
I'm talking about the live action Thor movie where the old Hulk. This is all from the '80s. My grandfather and I used to watch.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've never watched it. I've only seen clips of it on YouTube.
Oh, it's so good.
But I know what you're talking about. Like the costumes are really bad and.
Yeah, where he's Donald Blake or whatever, and he's got the staff.
Because they actually made a Doctor Strange movie too that was straight to TV, and I think that one was never released. I'm not sure, but I think that was never put on TV. But you can watch it on YouTube.
But all right,
Yeah, like that
back in the 80s.
Fantastic Four movie. Was it?
Oh yeah,
Roger Corman or whatever.
Yeah.
With the really bad Doctor.
So bad they never released it. Yeah. I don't think they've really ever gotten Doctor Doom right, so I think they've all been bad.
Which is a damn shame. He's such a great villain. But the rest of the
really
creative team, illustrator Brian Balondo.
Huh?
I'm terrible with names. I'm Southern, so English is my second language.
Yeah, it's Balondo. As far as I know, it's pronounced Balondo. Yeah.
The returning artist from Chaotic Flux 1. Brian is very talented and versatile, up-and-coming artist. He's said many times that his art would fit wonderfully in the books of the Big Two. I mean, let's be completely fair, though. I have a 4-year-old with a box of crayons that could outdo some of what the Big Two has put out in the last 5 years.
Well, yes, but we're not talking about recent years either. At least I hope they're not talking about.
We're not going to set the bar so low.
We're not talking squirrel grower here, No squirrel grower art here.
Some of his other works include
that one definitely looks like someone took a box of crayons.
Oh yeah,
the recent Squirrel Girl book. Yeah.
Oh yeah. His other works include Starburn, Rising Sun, Undercity Tales, and Chaotic Flux 1. Brian Magany.
Magnahi.
Okay,
yeah, they're both Filipinos, so of course we got some crazy last names.
All right, good. Also returning for Chaos Flux 2, Brian is a genius when it comes. So it's Scott, Brian, and Brian. It was Brian with the Y and Brian with an I. So you did yourself good there. Is a genius when it comes to his coloring techniques. He makes the art jump right off the page every time. Some of Brian's other works include The Mighty Titans, War of the Independents, Rising Sun, Undercity Tales, and a great successful Indiegogo comic, Ravage, Kill All Men. I actually saw that one. Janelle Murphy on letters. It'll be her first lettered comic, Chaotic Flux 2 will. As you can see from the previews above, she has a natural talent for it. Her drive and devotion to making this book turn out great is just as strong as anyone else on our team. So, and let's just take a look here at all of these assembled talents here. Let's find a good one. I really love the monster pages, so I'm going to focus on one of those. First off, you got the assembled team of 3 there. Um, that's always an iconic shot when you've got the entire group like in the shot, but
Oh yeah.
it
Yep.
really just kind of set
You got to do the full group shot.
Which one?
Yeah, I kind of designed that first 2 pages as a kind of showcase and introduction to. Yeah, well, yes, this first issue focuses and the second issue focuses on Satara. There is a team and there's more to it than just the one character. But that was also one of the things too, is me trying to figure out how to set all the characters up properly, and I kind of want to do them individually for the most part. Set up their origin, set up their their reasons for why they joined the team, why they're in these situations, and then we come to a point where they finally unite all together as a team to face their first common obstacle.
Okay. Yeah, that
Similar
could be
to the
handled,
Avengers film.
that could be handled one of 2 ways classically. One way that I've seen that I actually I appreciate in certain situations, but it can really be convoluted if you drag it out. A lot of people, the first issue you get will literally be the team actually gallivanting around like they've known each other forever, and then you'll get auxiliary story in either the background or subsequent side issues. Like you might get a Zathara issue 1, and it's just a one shot of her backstory that fills in all the gaps, or you can try and tell the story like throughout, and it looks like that's what you're doing
Yeah,
here, where you have a little bit of backstory
interweaving
like
a little bit.
sprinkled in. So it really just depends on the type of story, but I think it looks really interesting, and you've done really well with diversifying the cast of characters. It's not like 4 Ubermenschen who joined together because they met in the tavern in the classic D&D setting. You actually seem to have a well thought out plan, and you mentioned world building earlier, and that's one of the things that I think sells the story more than anything else. Like obviously the art sells the story, the writer, once he gets a reputation, sells the story. The cover sells the story. All of that ties in, but when you come together with something like, there's a reason stuff like Warhammer 40K does really well because of all the world building that has been done with it, and all of the amount of material there. So that's kind of the heart and soul of the story for me, is how well fleshed out is the world. Does the writer know where they're going in 2 books? Do they know where they're going in 10 books? How far out do they have planned? Do they, are there things? Are there questions that I could ask that the writer couldn't answer? Is really what it comes down to.
When I started researching like how to write comic scripts and like how to be more of a story writer, other than just coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
I had learned that I've seen it more than once where they had said you can make a story where you don't exactly know what the ending is, but I saw more often that it's worked for more people, more writers, where if you know what your ending is, if you know where your goals for your characters, where their story ends in particular, each one of them, uh, plus the overall end of the story, you can use that as your anchor to guide them to that. Um, and that helps you keep things more grounded in terms of that kind of you don't get sidetracked with things and what have you. You have to remember, okay, well, this is where I want their story to end, so they have to keep on kind of going on this path. There can be some side things here and there, but so that's kind of what I'm going, with this. I know the ending. I know how each character ends. Actually, I thought of like how their stories end well early on before I even learned that. But in particular, it helps more so make me feel good. Okay, I'm on the right track here. I know where my characters are going. I know how the story ends. So let's keep going. But yeah, it's just it helps too, like you said, in terms of writing the story. In terms of it gives you a little more relief that you know where it's going, and you don't have to sit there one day and just go, okay, where do I really want this to go? You know, you're taking care of that already. So I would say if you were writing a story, definitely if you can, and if you have the idea for where you want your characters to end up, definitely, or try to come up with the idea of where you want your characters to go, so that it helps you get you there, and not make the story too convoluted or hard to follow or what have you.
Now, I think
Yeah,
that
that makes sense.
I think that about wraps up the Indiegogo portion. We can go through the tiers real quick and take a look at the art as we go through it. At first, you mentioned your deluxe package, $25. That gets you PDF signed books number 2. Gets you the trading cards and an art print. The PDF is $5. You've got the $10 unsigned copy, the autograph copy for 15. You've got the metallic cover for 20. Um, Now, when you're doing these, what's your bare minimum that you need to sell to effectively run a metallic cover or a chromium cover? I mean, ideally,
I'm not quite
how many would you prefer to have to sell before you hit the trigger on that?
right. Well, I mean, honestly, the metallic covers aren't that expensive to print. The printer I go through,
Well, I assumed it
so
would
it's
be a
not really
minimum.
a big.
Is the thing I was going for?
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot
Oh,
about.
I see what you. Okay, yeah, you just remind me, honestly, or actually. So through this particular printer, they do have a $30 shipping minimum. So
Okay.
because they want to ship in bulk.
Right.
So that's something my wife was telling me too, like because I did a metallic cover on the first issue, and she's like, "I hope you sell a decent amount of these because that shipping's gonna be crazy. You only sell 1 or 2 of the metallics." I'm like, "I know," and luckily the metallics sold really well in the first campaign, and they sold really well in this one as well. So people, seem to like them a lot, which I love them myself. That's the reason why, obviously, I did it in the campaign. So like I said, if you can hit that for in the printer I'm using, if you hit that $30 shipping, to make it worth it, then there you go.
Okay. So
Otherwise, the printing from
it's more of a shipping concern than a minimum quantity concern. And like you said, you do a lot of shows now. Whether we'll be able to still have comic book shows after Corona hits, but you do shows. You have a website where you can still sell these after the fact. Now, the metallic
Yes.
is unique to this particular campaign, though. So,
That's correct.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming
everything except for the standard version of the issue and the PDF. Everything else is exclusive to the campaign. Just the PDF and the standard issue can you get outside of it or beyond it.
So you got.
And actually, I should mention this too. Since go ahead.
No, after you.
I was going to say this next week. I'm thinking Friday. I'm actually going to make distribution easier. Because I got to send all this into the printer, the metallic cards and the regular trading cards and the metallic cover and then their art prints. I send that to them to get it made and then shipped to me. And anyway, it makes distribution easier. Where next week I'm going to cut off everything except for the standard version of the issue and the PDFs. Everything else will be taken off or taken down from the Indiegogo.
Okay.
So this is the last week to get any of that stuff.
Okay. All right.
This coming week. Well, now and into next Friday.
So you got the
keep that in mind, everybody.
Because the book right now we have.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I have a thing about.
I was gonna say
if
all the pages are illustrated now.
If there's an extended point of silence, I'll just start talking.
All the pages are colored now. Mm-hmm. The last few pages are being lettered now, and
see,
and then after that, 2 weeks later, then I start shipping them out to everybody. So that's also one of the reasons why this is the last week.
All right. So
You're really rolling forward on that.
Yeah, that's the metallic deluxe package is the same as the original, except with the metallic cover. You can get both covers autographed with a copy of the PDF. Now there's the collector's package. That's the PDF, the signed comic, the metallic cover signed, trading cards, art print, metallic trading cards, and a metallic art print. The All Out Chaos package is everything listed above, as well as a T-shirt, and then you have the a couple of sold out tiers here. 25 sketch cards. Okay, so yeah, you've got a week left to get the metallic cover or the Ultimate Edition with the T-shirt. So check that out. You'll still be able to get the PDF or the comic after this fact, but the trading cards are limited time only. You got about a week left on those guys, so check that out in the link down below. And I think that's about all I've got on the campaign itself.
Well, Chad Middleton in the chat has a question for you, Scott.
Okay.
Will you accept a roll of toilet paper as a form of payment for your campaign?
No, I know as short as the nation is now on toilet paper, thanks to panic buying. I well stocked actually. I got lucky the other day, and my Walmart had plenty of toilet paper.
Oh, okay.
So no.
Well,
At this point,
sorry, Chad.
Yeah, you're gonna have
Sorry,
to come.
Chad.
You're gonna have to come with at least 3 rolls and a thing of hand sanitizer.
No, it is funny how hand sanitizer is still scarce.
Yeah, I think it's because people are drinking it.
Probably. Actually, well, I don't know about hand sanitizer, but there's a video I saw the other day on Instagram where this guy, I guess just how bored people were getting, I don't know, but he was sitting there. First, he was sitting there pouring alcohol on his hand and lighting on fire. You know, something we've all done as kids,
Yeah,
I think. And
as kids,
but then he takes the whole bottle of, and this is like a right. Then he takes a whole bottle, like I mean, your standard size bottle of rubbing alcohol, and downs it.
Nice.
And I'm just, and of course, you know, as soon as after he gets done with that, he realizes, you know, that was dumb because now his insides feel like shit, and he runs off the camera. And his buddy comes up and he's like, "Oh, he's okay. We'll be right back." And I'm like, "Of course he's not okay. He's probably dying now."
No man, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Jeez.
It's cool. I've had moonshine that was stronger. He's fine.
So yeah, there's probably people out there downing a freaking rubbing alcohol. I mean, a hand sanitizer.
Yeah, I mean that's only 140 proof. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, the only
Pretty
thing
sure
that
he's
makes the
gotta get his stomach
alcohol, the only thing that makes the alcohol different in the in hand sanitizer versus what we drink is some additive. I forget what it's called. It starts with a U, but it basically makes it taste like ass, so people won't drink it on accident.
I'm sitting here drinking.
So
Right.
I mean,
I'm drinking a Scott that was aged
Right.
for 9 years to taste more like a campfire than it already does. I don't think there's anything you can make alcohol taste like that somebody's not going to drink it.
it's to discourage drinking.
Somebody out there,
I'm not saying
somebody out
nobody
there
would do
loves
it.
their hand sanitizer on the rocks. Okay, let's just put money on that right now.
Novel bro, what are you drinking tonight?
But I've got on the Cryon, I've got Comic Flux 2 or Chaotic Flux 2 and Comicsgate. So you tagged Comicsgate when you were promoting the show. I identify as Comicsgate or Comicsgate adjacent, however you want to look at it, because I'm not a creator. But as a fan, I identify as Comicsgate. I break the rules a little bit in the sense that, you know, if you're anti-Comicsgate and you put out a book that I'm interested in, I'm probably still going to buy it because I am a grown man. And I am not part of a biker gang or anything like that or a cult. If there's something that interests me and I have the money to spend on it, I'm not really going to give a shit what anybody else thinks of me buying it. But as far as the ideas go, as far as you know, the personas go, I believe that I fall more in line with Comicsgate than out of it. And there's been some interesting news to come up that Larry Bernard aka Karasoff, in our Discord brought up, and I saw it on Ethan Van Sciver's show the other day. But Mike S. Miller, creator of Lone Star, has apparently nuked his Twitter from orbit, and recently it has come to light that he commissioned 4 covers from Kyle Ritter and didn't pay him, and blamed the negative press from Ethan on it. Are you familiar with that little bit of drama?
Oh, I've heard that. Who was it? Kyle before, was it DC or no? It was some comic book company that had stole designs for Starblades. I've heard that.
They stole
I can't remember what
designs
the
from
comic book company
Starblades.
was. It's like they stole the some of the design work. They stole some of the story ideas as well as its color schemes, or at least it very much looks that way.
Jesus.
So yeah, they're
My
being
man,
accused of stealing Kyle's work.
my man
But
can't
no,
catch a
this is
break.
news to me as far as of Mike stealing this work from him
I
and
believe
blaming it on
I believe I have a
the new
clip.
drama, recent drama.
I believe I have a clip. Let me see if I can pull that up. Ayrton, did you have any questions you wanted to?
I'm glad that you can still get the first issue because I am intrigued by this. I think this looks like a real fun story.
Thank you. Warms my heart to hear you say that.
I have to
And
be contrarian to Ayrton.
and I wanted
I take back all the praise I gave you earlier. It's terrible.
to.
Yeah, we're gonna. I'm kidding. I'm joking, guys. Obviously,
Well,
we're having a laugh.
and I went to your Twitter before the show to pull up the Indiegogo stuff and kind of browse through it real quick, but I just saw you had the link to your website on there, so I clicked that. I was like, oh, that's actually really cool that you have an entirely separate website for all of the stuff that you're doing.
Thank you.
I like how you have
Yeah.
the character bios and everything on there, and you can buy the previous first issue and stuff on there. That's a nice touch, especially for I miss out on a lot of campaigns just because I
Right.
don't have a lot of money, but being able to go back
Yeah,
later
it's been so
and
tough lately, man. Like, there's so many campaigns I want to have fun, but
right.
right now I'm just kind of like, well, I'm gonna wait a little bit to see if I really have the money to spend right now. I mean, I've been furloughed and such, so it's like I'm like, we'll see. But I'm
But
hoping to
yeah,
catch some of these campaigns for the end. That's for sure.
yeah, but that's definitely a nice touch that from a customer standpoint, I really appreciate that you do have that set up like that.
Thank you.
Oh, come on! I know I can find it.
Now, where's this video?
I'm working on it here.
Oh, you still haven't found it?
It came
Oh,
up
okay.
right when the show started. I don't think there's anybody from War Campaign in the chat that could link me to it. It was on Twitter. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, and you want to drop a link in the Discord, I will happily look at it. But basically, my understanding is that there were 4 covers that Mike S. Miller commissioned Kyle Ritter to color. And Kyle Ritter did the work, and when he turned it in, Mike said something along the lines of, I can't pay you because of what Ethan Van Sciver has put me through, or something of that nature.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
What he should have done is, hey, what is going on right now between me and Ethan and the other guys? Kyle, I need to tell you, I'll pay you for what you've done already, but stop the project now. I cannot continue this.
Right.
If that's
how you should have
that's
done
just
it.
my opinion and how I think. Yeah, that's how you should have done it. Yeah, if it really bothered him that much, where he can't just let this guy finish his job and he pay him for his work, then yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is like, I understand where a lot of these guys are coming from to a certain extent, right? Like, I get having a problem of just basically a disagreement, more or less, right? it's not necessarily that either side's right or wrong. I mean, obviously, a lot of us feel like there are right and wrong sides to this, but in the grand scheme of things, um, these all come down to opinion based things and belief systems and all of that stuff. And you know, it doesn't really affect me what Doug TeNapel and Ethan Van Sciver can agree on. But now we have instances of people flagging and trying to get people's campaigns taken down over parody, over disagreements online, and it really makes me sick to see these anti-comics gate sickos basically become the same thing that they tried to get away from in the mainstream.
Well, and all of it just comes across just so childish most of the time.
Yeah, this is totally a childish act on Miller's part. I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like,
it's so unprofessional. It's so unprofessional.
I get it, especially with I feel like Doug did use Comicsgate. We actually had a long discussion about this last night off air with a good friend of ours, and I think that the betrayal of Doug TeNapel, quote unquote, if that's what you want to call it, a lot of people do. I think it was a well thought out business move because I think Doug saw the popularity of Comicsgate, but realized that a lot of people just never broke past, that 500,000 mark simply because Comicsgate kind of revolves around Ethan. So Doug took the opportunity to step back from it using his contractual obligations and a disagreement over a tweet with Mike Miller, and he used that as a stepping stone to not only sell an assload of books on the back of Earthworm Jim, but also sell an assload of books on the back of people that didn't like Ethan Van Sciver. I don't think it was right. I don't think it was an honorable move. I think that there really should have been some repercussions that there never were, and karma's a bitch. But it was a sound business decision, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so it really kind of it I don't know. It didn't hurt anybody for Doug to do what he did the way that a lot of these guys have been doing lately with the canceling and the spotlighting on Twitter and the dog whistling and all that bullshit. I didn't know if there was any reason that you like. Did you come across Comicsgate in its original state back in 2018? Are you kind of new to it? What's your involvement in all of that? I guess would be the follow up question to all that rambling.
Yeah. How I first stumbled upon it really was through Ethan's videos on his outrage for Star Wars and the recent Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars, and Last Jedi. As I was infuriated after I saw the film myself, and I saw this guy making videos about it, and I started watching them and was intrigued by what he had to say and agreed so much with what he had to say. And then I find out, wait, this guy used to draw Green Lantern, and he's a really good artist. And now he's got this comic called Cyberfrog that he's trying to resurrect, and it's like, oh, this is really awesome. And that's how I got introduced to that he's.
Ethan Van Sciver is probably one of the most influential people to ever touch the Green Lantern property in our lifetime. The things that he did.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, his art is just designs. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But anyway, go ahead.
That's crazy too. Like he's got so much. Like the people who really like Ethan's and his Green Lantern run, that just like it for what it is and not any of the political, controversial whatever anything else. They recognize that he's a really talented guy and he made the Green Lantern. He definitely contributed to what makes Green Lantern special. But then you have all the other people who just can't see past that, which is really a shame because he is a talented guy. He's a great creator, but what I was going to say too is that that was before I created Chaotic Flux, though, and there's a friend of mine who told me about or reminded me, I should say, remind me of Comicsgate. And then he said, well, there's all these guys that would probably, because, okay, so my first campaign, I got up to about 1,000, over 1,000 funded before I jumped into Comicsgate. And he reminded me of Comicsgate, and he said these guys are real supportive, and they do all these live streams that would help you get noticed. So maybe contact some of them and see what's up. And then so I started contacting them, and getting awakened to more of the political things that I relate to as terms of how I think storytelling should be, how I think comic books in particular should be. And then so I just jumped in and said, yeah, these are my people. This is my my grounds here. This is where I should be. And then I started, I'm Comicsgate because like I said, I don't think that storytelling should be political crap rammed down your throat. It should just be fun, exciting, and enjoyable, and interesting and intriguing. You can have some things here and there that open your eyes up to various world issues and what have you, but don't overflow it in your face. Don't ram it down your throat. Don't and then all these really ridiculous things that I think is like, for instance, what's a good example? Telling women to smile is bad. I'm like, because that was in a recent issue of Captain Marvel. I'm like, why is that in there? That does not need to be in there. That's just stupid, pointless crap like that. Where better dialogue could have been put there to make this
Ask about my
story actually really
agenda
interesting.
comes to mind.
Yes, all that crap. I'm
Yeah.
like, what? This is pointless. This is a total waste of art and paper and creators' time. Although they seem to enjoy writing it, but that's what I should say. It's a waste of a spot for a more talented artist or writer to be there doing that same thing.
Okay. No, I
In that spot, I should say.
I completely agree with you on that particular fashion. I don't think that there should be any real gatekeeping, quote unquote, in the comics industry left.
No, there shouldn't.
And the fact that there is, and the fact that this kind of situation was needed in order to, I don't know, not even diffuse, but to make sense of an indie comics industry that basically wouldn't exist without the whole Comicsgate movement, without fans reaching in their wallets. Like, people, I see all the time people saying this is the first time I've bought a comic book in 20 years, and
Yeah, I get that a lot too.
you see that, and it's just like,
I've
hey,
got people that say they've never bought a comic, and yeah.
So, go ahead.
I'm saying I've gotten people that have told me they've never bought a comic, and they just thought that for instance, Flux was a good jumping in point. And I've had other creators say the same thing, that I think people, they're craving, they're starting to crave more beyond what current entertainment is able to give. Maybe so, maybe not, but that's kind of the feeling I get, and definitely, I mean, as well as you see Comicsgate doing, or just indie comics, a lot of indie comics in particular, doing pretty well overall. And then you look at the sales for mainstream books, and you're just like, yeah, there's definitely a outcry for better stories, better art, and what have you. That's the feeling I get. I mean, you look at again, we'll go back to Ethan, but you look at Ethan sales, or you look at I can't remember his real name, but your boy Zach. You look at or Kyle Ritter's Star Blades, and you look at all these. There's Cecil's Cash Grab, and there's definitely an appetite. There's definitely people out there that want to fund these books big, but then there's also the little guys like me, and we're getting funded, and it's like, there's definitely this craving for better stories, better art, for sure. And I'm so glad, that, provided the economy holds, continues to hold, but right now it's pretty damn good.
You hang that one up, the economy's screwed.
Last year it did fantastic too. Oh, yeah, well,
the economy's screwed.
I'm kind of hoping that's good. Yeah, I'm kind of because I'm in the process now of finishing the script for issue 3 and hoping to get that out by or the campaign going by the beginning of summer. but at the same time, I'm also kind of watching closely the economy and see how things go. But again, at the same time, I'm thinking, well, people, if we're going to be continue to be locked up inside, not locked up, but pretty much, stationary. Was it shelter in place?
Yeah.
That people were going to be craving more entertainment, something to sit down and read, particular comics. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that there's something to that, and people will, still continue to support the indie books and get them delivered so they can read them at home. Especially since the mainstream is kind of iffy right now.
Yeah,
or really iffy right now.
It definitely is very iffy right now. I think Marvel and DC just announced
Definitely,
they're
all
going
the woke politics isn't helping it still. So and if we're going non-woke politics in our books, then
well, EVS
chance.
said on a stream with, I don't know if you remember, he did a show on Nick Ricada's channel, late 2018, I think it was, with Jason Youngbluth, and they did a debate on why Comicsgate is a racket. Was the topic brought up by Jason Youngbluth, who did Weapon Brown, I believe was his book.
I want to know how it's a racket, but okay.
Well, he didn't actually have an argument the entire time he was on, so that was
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
that was interesting. He also used the F slur for the LGBTQ community 3 times. It sparked one of the most epic Nick Ricada rants on YouTube ever. I think he's the only person ever kicked off of a Ricada stream. Was Jason Youngbluth.
Wow. Wow.
There were.
Well, at least you got some achievement out of it.
But the point that Van Sciver made is it's not counter political. Like, Tim Lim kind of broke the mold and went against Comicsgate when he did Trump Space Force, which we reviewed on this channel. We both liked it. But, he said something along the lines of, in 2026, when Trump's no longer president, Trump Space Force is going to look just about as silly as the Barack Obama Spider-Man cover. And he's right. They're topical and, they make a little bit of a splash in the moment. But the idea of, like, there's no...
You're not going to have an ongoing series of Trump Space Force.
Well, that's the thing. I have no... there's nothing in my body right now reaching out and saying, what we don't have enough of? Jimmy Carter comic books.
Right.
I would read some JFK comic books, though.
Well,
that would be...
I agree with you. I don't think the Trump thing's going to continue after he's out of office, but some political stuff, carries pretty well. Like, of course, everybody still, I think, well, I mean, you don't know, yeah, I take that back. You're right. So, like, I can't see them making a new Marvel book about fighting zombies, or not zombies, Nazis, even though, didn't they make a Superman book where he's fighting Nazis, which is crazy? But still, I mean, you still have the idea that, Nazis are bad. So, but yeah, I can't see them making a new Captain America book where he's fighting Nazis unless it's like some weird version of Hydra, maybe. But yeah, okay, I see what you're going. I thought I had something, but yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well, it was more of a presidential thing and a partisan politics thing. Like, you were right when you first said there are certain political events in history, and there are certain, like, the Holocaust is always going to be somewhat topical for whatever reason you want to attribute that to, chat. I'm not weighing in one way or the other. Novel Bro, don't start.
Novel Bro going.
I'm gonna say, don't start, Novel Bro. Not gonna do it.
Ask him about Russia.
But the Holocaust is always going to be topical. So books like Mouse are somewhat timeless, right? Are you familiar with Mouse? MAUS?
Yeah, I am. I haven't read it, but I know of it. I know it's a very powerful, influential story.
It is,
or so I've heard.
It does what it does very well. It's an autobiographical piece, or not an autobiography. It's a biographical piece of the artist and his father. And his father's a Holocaust survivor, but that's always going to be topical. It's always going to be, one of those things in comics. I think in the next 100 years, if people still talk about comic books, Mouse will still be on every list of must reads. But this Orange Man bad phenomenon that we have going on right now, I consider myself a little L libertarian. I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm politically incorrect, and I want my guns, my beer, and my freedom. Um, I want my comic books, and I don't want to be told that I am the boogeyman and MODOK isn't. I don't want to be told that it's okay for Captain America to be a terrorist as long as he's a terrorist for the right side. No, it's not okay for Captain America to be a terrorist. That'd be like Superman being a bad guy, and everybody hated Injustice. Nobody liked it. Injustice was bad. It was created for a video game. Yeah, Superman being evil. Wow, we haven't seen that done 9 million times. Sorry, get a little carried away. But no, and no offense if you enjoy Injustice. Injustice actually was a pretty good story. It just, God, it's played out. And if Mark Waid hadn't done it better with Irredeemable, then maybe it would hold up. But Irredeemable is a much better Superman Gone Evil story, in my opinion. But that's neither here.
Oh, you mean the game, the video game series, or the book series?
The book series they did the first 3 years of what's the I just said it. What's the goddamn name of it? Injustice. Injustice. Gods Among Us. Years 1 through 3. That's the whiskey. Those were decent. They were okay. Again, the trope of Superman being a bad guy has been overdone, and again, I hate to say this, but Mark Waid did it better with.
I thought it was interesting the way they did it. Yeah, Mark Waid did a better job, but I thought it was interesting, how they did do it. How wasn't it Lois is pregnant and she got killed with the baby, and that made him flip. But it's kind of like the whole thing too, though, where you've seen Batman and Superman face off lots of times. Probably maybe at least 10 times in the comics. I could be wrong, more or less. But all the times I've seen it, they did a pretty good job of making it different and interesting. So for me, as long as they make it, at least different and still pretty interesting, I'm cool with that. Like my favorite was when like I mentioned earlier, my 2 favorite Batman books are Dark Knight Returns and Batman Hush, and I think those are 2 of the best face-offs of Batman versus Superman. Especially when in Hush, when he pulls out the kryptonite, I think it was rings.
Yeah.
And then because that's the thing that I always love about Batman. You got Superman, who's he's got all these abilities. These superpowers, super strength, and all this stuff. But you take that away, he's nothing, because he doesn't know how to fight without his powers. Whereas Batman, that's all he does. He fights because he has no powers with all these different martial arts. So, you take away Superman's powers, and Batman always has a way to outsmart him in that way. Or if you look at Dark Knight Returns, when he pulls out that crazy gun attached to all the power in the city, electrocutes him. Jesus.
No, that was.
But that's that's that awesome brain power of Batman taking over there.
But I would argue the fact that Batman has a superpower. It is his bank account.
Yes. Well, his bank account and his detective skills. His brain. He's just freaking smart as heck. So
I've bitched about this a dozen times on the show already, but I'll do it one more time since you're a new guest. They abuse the ever-living shit out of Batman's quote-unquote detective skill. Let's think back. When was the last time we actually got to see Batman do any real detective work after the Silver Age?
Yeah.
Like honestly,
yeah.
When was the last time you saw Batman walking around?
He did a decent amount of
fingerprints.
That's right. Well, that's one of the things I liked in Hush. He did a pretty decent amount of
Oh, yeah.
of detecting, I should say. And
But-
that one, he did a pretty good job with that. And there's a few others here and there. But yeah,
But
you're right.
Is Hush
You're right.
considered canonical?
It's been a while.
I didn't know if Hush was
As far as I
considered
know,
canonical because
I
I felt it
think
was
I
in
could
that
be
limbo
wrong.
of Killing Joke where they use some of it sometimes, but they ignore it others.
Huh?
I felt like it was in that same limbo
no.
as Killing Joke. So I don't know,
Mm.
but anyway, now the last thing, and the topic on again everybody's mind. We've talked about it with pretty much everybody. If you saw the thumbnail, um, I have added Mask to mine and Ayrton's avatars, and we're being watched over by our girl back there, Corona Chan. I don't you don't have to give away any.
She's ever
information
watching.
or whatever. But how has this pandemic affected you in your day-to-day activities? You said earlier you had been furloughed, so basically you're under that shelter in place or whatever.
I mean, where I'm at, it's not too bad yet. I think the last time I looked at the count of infected, it was like 215 in our county.
Okay.
And I mean, the restaurants are shut down except for to-go orders and curbside pickup, and grocery stores, still open, pharmacies, but everything else is closed. So it's it's not too bad. I work on the book, getting the pages done, and the trading card art still have to finish those. And so yeah, the book keeps me busy all day basically here lately. And then as soon as I'm done with this book, I continue on finishing the script for issue 3, and then kind of play it by ear from there on if I'm going to do the campaign this year or not, depending on how the economy looks. And yeah, it hasn't affected me too much. My wife, she's down. She has been dropped to 36 hours, but she's a zookeeper, so she has to go to work and take care of the animals, so they haven't furloughed her or laid her off.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of waiting on my unemployment checks and my that stimulus check, and
Waiting on the
just,
bag.
do stuff around the house all day.
Dillard
Huh?
has a final question for you in the chat, but I think I can
God.
field this one actually. So Dillard Draws says, "Why should I back the book if we're all going to be dead by Midsummer's Eve?" Well, simple, Dillard. You can't take the money with you.
That's right.
And you're going to get it before then anyways.
Yep.
So
Yep.
You
The
should,
pages this week, or hopefully get the finished pages. Should be but done by tomorrow. She's got 3 more pages to do. Done tomorrow, and then off to the printer. A couple weeks later, we get the books back, and then distribute to everyone. So very quick.
Yeah, it won't even be summertime, Dillard. That's why you should back.
Oh. Yep.
This book will be out
Oh,
and
so
in
what
your
do you guys
hands
think?
just in time to read before COVID ends. Go ahead. What was your question?
Is it going to end though?
Oh,
I was gonna say, is it going to end? What do you guys think?
I think the disease.
Now, what's your prediction for how long this is going to go on?
For me, Ayrton, you go first. I've got to organize my thoughts on this.
I don't know. That's a tricky one because up where I'm at, we're third or fourth in Michigan as far as like infection rates and deaths go. Like it's basically New York City, New Jersey, and then like us in California are tied, which is weird. So
That's weird.
really hard. Yeah, so it's really hard for me to make a depiction because it's seemingly so random, right?
Right.
There doesn't seem to be a good consistent pattern. So I don't know. I'd say at least a few more months. Probably we're in April, late June, early July.
Yeah, I'm thinking at the earliest July.
Did you get your thoughts in order, Church?
I did. I'm bantering with Dillard real quick. Dillard, I know you can't see me because I'm not on camera, but I'm pointing to the fact that this is my YouTube channel and my chat, so that's what gives me the right to put you in your place. because it's mine. Anyway, for me, I keep seeing reports that this shit could be seasonal. I think it's going to be the long ride, ladies and gentlemen. I think that until there's a vaccine for this shit, that life will not even have an opportunity to go back to any semblance of normalcy. You know, we're not long term thinking creatures, human beings. So nobody right now is asking the question because it doesn't matter, right? But nobody's asking the question of, well, what happens to you know pro sports? Can those industries survive basically taking a year off, so to speak? Is professional basketball going to be able to maintain its talent when you can't even really have groups of three or more together in certain places? I've seen people get arrested for boogie boarding.
Like past curfew or something?
Well, for breaking social distancing or whatever, but they were in the middle of the
Oh, wow.
ocean by themselves. They were just on a beach that was
Wow.
closed down.
Wow.
And I walk around with this whole, I don't know, chip on my shoulders almost, because I'm of two minds, right? I'm one of those. I'm in one of those states that has a Republican governor who is sitting in his office pretending this doesn't exist and saying "money machine go brrr," and non-essential businesses are closed, but they're not. They can still operate if you can like arrange for customers to pick shit up outside or something. And you don't know this because I haven't mentioned it on the show, but nightly church is a family man reference. I have 3 children. I'm married, but my job isn't considered essential. But I'm still going to work every day. There are 200 something cases in my county as well. We've had 3 or 4 deaths here already, and our governor just kind of keeps putting us on restriction. Oh, you can't go to the movies anymore. Okay, well, I mean that kind of makes sense. You can't go to the gym anymore. All right, I mean that kind of pisses me off because I always went after midnight or whatever. But sure, I'm not gonna even lie and say that I've been recently. But when I do go, it's always late, so I don't really see a lot of other people. So that just fucks me over. You can't go to a bar and sit down and have a drink. You have to go to a family sports bar and order a takeout, and then hope that they have a cool manager that will serve you alcohol while you wait. Uh, Dillard is one of those essential guys. He does something important, like bitch in my chat and make me look like a nonce. But
and deliver eggs.
Well, that's important. But we've basically been put in timeout by our government, and I worry about the ramifications of that as a power because this has been brought up by smarter people than me. But how many of you guys have sat down and thought, well, when's the next time they're going to enact this this quote unquote executive power?
I'm guessing, like you said earlier, this is a seasonal thing, or
Well,
could be a seasonal thing.
I'm not even talking about in
So what if it's every once a year? Or I know what you mean.
I'm not even talking about in the sense of the disease. What if they decide that gun violence is now a pandemic?
Well,
and they can make us all stay inside after 7:00.
Well, too. I think too. Like, how else do we deal with this? How do we fight this? I mean,
well, this in particular, sure.
We're trying this and hoping it's going to work. We still don't know if this is going to work. We're just kind of going off of what little we know China did, and hoping.
Well, sure, but
hoping we're doing the right thing, but we don't know.
How do we defend our freedoms that we've already given away once because we were scared of one thing?
Right.
How do we defend those freedoms?
Right.
And I'm not saying that
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Right?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go. a friend of mine was talking about today that it's like this double-edged sword where you either deal with restrictions now and hope that it doesn't go beyond when if we defeat the virus,
Yeah.
and go through this for a few months or so, hopefully only a few months, maybe a year, but the virus is gone enough to where we can come back out and go back to normal society. Or if we don't, shelter in place more, and maybe some places are doing more where you have a curfew and you have to stay inside at certain hours, and
Mm-hmm.
and you can only go to like the grocery store at certain times and all these things. But and what if we kind of stay where most of the country's not so much that strict right now, and we continue on this road, and it does continue to spread, and then it gets worse, and we get to this point where we continue to where we don't do more of a lockdown to contain it, and it just keeps going and going and going for years, and we're stuck in this rut where the economy just keeps going down and businesses keep closing down because they can't sustain themselves, and we can't have normal jobs and all these things, to where
I don't.
I mean the world's already going to be it's probably going to be pretty different when all this is over, but
if this
definitely going to be
extends-
vastly different if we're sitting here for years through this thing,
Oh, absolutely. If this
hoping
thing
it's going to go.
extends past, if this thing extends
Well-
past much longer than another month or two, then I mean, you can kind of consider it a complete societal collapse, in my opinion, because businesses that have been shut down that long, there's no way you can afford, without completely crippling the economy, to bail all those businesses out.
Well, there's one thing that most people with the whole like super strict shelter in place thing, that I'd actually came across recently. So Spanish flu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another pretty bad pandemic. Everyone still kept going on with their daily lives as normal through that, and we were fine and got through it. So what's so different about this virus that we're taking such crazy extreme measures? It makes me nervous because I don't trust any form of government authority. So it just like, are
Right.
you guys just like, you guys know that this has happened before and we went on with our normal lives and we were fine.
Well, that's the thing,
Are you
though,
using
too.
this as an excuse just to get more from us? Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I
where
guess,
I'm iffy about it.
but I mean, like I pay attention to a lot of the news here recently on it, and I go to the World Meter site where they have like the count of infection and death and
Yeah,
all
I
this
check that
stuff,
all the time too. Yeah.
and I mean, unless they're lying about all that stuff, it just keeps going up, and the death keeps going up, and I'm just like, and they've said more than once that this thing is worse than the flu. It's about 10 times worse death rate than the flu, and I mean, you've already seen like big name people dying from it, and it's like, I don't think it's a joke. And then it's just like, I mean, yes, it's not like where a lot of people thought, okay, if we're ever going to have a crazy pandemic, you're going to have like 40,000 people dying a day and that kind of thing. It's not on that level. Thankfully we're still a few thousand people a day, which is still really bad. But at least it's not like I said, 40,000 or something like you see in the movies. I don't know, to me, it's a weird outbreak, to where it's this kind of in between thing where yes, a good amount of people are dying every day, but at the same time, it's not. It makes you feel like, really, how bad is this? I mean, it's bad, but so then you start to question things more, I think. And I think the media hasn't done the best job on explaining everything either and whatnot,
Well,
especially. But
No,
at
of
the same
course
time,
not.
Let's look at-
from what I've read and seen, we're still learning about this thing. It's kind of weird and bizarre in the fact that there's new information coming about it all the time, and we're not used to that. And it's like it doesn't really seem like when I first started hearing about this thing and all the weird stuff that it did versus like the flu. Before it got over here and it's still in China, I'm like, this thing's like a weird sci-fi movie. I've never heard of a virus that's ever like this. And it doesn't feel realistic.
I've always attributed it to Captain Trips from The Stand, the Stephen King novel and miniseries. But you actually hit on something there that I wanted to kind of bring up real quick. This isn't anything that we've ever experienced in our lifetime. This is the Spanish flu and the Great Depression kind of put into one. Next comes war for anybody keeping count at home. Next comes a big war, so just strap in for that. We're gonna have to do
with
something
China, most likely.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something to jumpstart the economy. And what jumpstarts the goddamn economy? War.
I'm not joking. It's probably going to be a war with China because the entire global community is pissed off at them right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's my wife, her and her coworkers. They were messing around a couple weeks ago, and they came up with this theory where let's assume that it was man-made, but not by China. It was actually made by Russia. And because you remember, and the reason why this came about is because if you were looking at the numbers on Russia and their infection and what have you, and it was really low for a long time, and we're like, why isn't Russia having such problems, as the rest of the world? And what's going on with Russia? Do they actually have a vaccine or something we don't know about? And then,
go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a joke. China has,
but that was the whole kind of backbone behind that, was that Russia had actually engineered it. They set it loose in China and was hoping it was going to spread to the rest of the world. And when the whole world is weak enough after and they had the vaccine, that's why their numbers are so low that they were going to strike and then take over what's left.
No. What's going to happen is Putin is going to challenge.
Wild theory.
Putin's going to challenge Donald Trump to a wrestling match, a bare-chested wrestling match, and the winner of that wrestling match, because Donald Trump is a WWE superstar, as well as a reality TV star. So he's taken more Stone Cold Stunners than any other president in history. Facts. But Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are going to wrestle for the title of Supreme Commander of the world after COVID sweeps through, and the loser will be second in command. That's what it would be like if Russia had done it. But see, you're all wrong. It was definitely Chinese made, and the reason it didn't spread very fast in Russia when it got there is because China hasn't saved up enough points yet to put into to cold endurance. So the virus didn't have the resilience. They're playing Plague Inc. over there. They didn't have the genetic points to put into cold resistance. So it was having a hard time in Russia until they were able to upgrade that feature. So that answers your question. It didn't. It wasn't made in Russia. Russia didn't have some secret. They just, China hadn't had the chance to mutate it yet. Something bat soup.
Well, and I just pulled up. So this is the Michigan.gov, and this information is updated daily at 3 p.m. So let's see. My county has 2,540 infections and 136 deaths.
Wow.
Now, and this will probably close it up. First off, definitely thank you for hanging out with us this long. I don't know if I even gave you
Thanks for having me, man.
Oh no, I don't know if I even gave you a timeline. I've just been sitting here rambling for 2 hours. If you should put up with it, so you're great. But final thoughts on this Corona thing. Where, like, you ask us where did we see it coming out, and you agree that it could possibly be seasonal. Nobody really knows yet. What do you think is going to come of this? Like, we're having to see the world adapt to things like homeschooling for pretty much every child in the country. We're seeing businesses close down and adapt, more online sales. The entire country's entertainment, division is shut down. Gas prices are tanking because nobody's traveling. everything's changing around us at a breakneck pace. It's almost impossible to keep up with. So, you mentioned briefly earlier the comics industry, the mainstream, kind of shutting down. Diamond no longer accepting new books for a period of time. Where do you see this leaving the comic industry, and what do you think the effects on the indie comic, the comic gate scene, however you want to spin that? But where do you see this like affecting the overall industry?
Well, I mean, if it's true that I've heard that Diamond, the reason why they're not paying people right now is because they are actually in debt, a lot of debt, and they may never come back. And if that is the case, I can see another distributor. I've heard of I can't remember the name of their. I think it's Penguin House or something like that. They do
Ping,
more like they
Penguin
do
Random
Archie
House.
comics.
Penguin Random House.
Yeah,
They do.
I've heard that they're wanting to take over
They publish my
as a
favorite author,
mainstream
Mark Van
distributor.
Lipsky.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh, that's cool.
House of Leaves,
But
50-Year Sword, all that good shit. But yeah,
oh, I didn't know they did that. Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that one. But yeah, I've heard they're wanting to take over as kind of try to be more of the Diamond replacement. And then I've heard DC's looking at going more digital, but the thing with digital, it still hasn't taken off. The
And it
sales of digital
sucks.
are still very low. Yeah, so I think that's a bad idea. But DC's also talking about doing their own distribution. Not sure how that's gonna go. I wish them the best of luck, but at the
DC.
same time, I look at it this way too. Okay, you look at the movie industry, you look at the comic book industry, even the video game industry is getting affected some now too. Economy affecting them to the point where they're kind of brought down to level zero, and they're in terms of risk taking, that's out the window. And of course, risk taking involves a lot that plays into the woke politics stuff, and I think,
Oh, 100%.
from how I understand it, right? So my theory is that when they do really try to get up and going again, that they won't have that extra reach, or not extra reach, that extra stretching room to go in that direction. That they'll instead have to concentrate on actually making stories that are going to try to get as many people, a broader net, of people, particularly those that they know are comic book fans. They know are, people have grown up with it and have been a part of it for decades or so, or just like, the stories that don't have the political stuff shoved down their throat. So my theory is they're going to concentrate on that more, put the woke stuff aside, hopefully forever. But maybe once they get themselves back on track, they'll bring that back in. But hopefully not. But at least for a while, I think it's definitely going to be where putting on good stories and giving you escapism, true escapism and fun escapism. I also think that I don't know what Marvel's going to do. They haven't really said too much. They almost sound like they're just mostly
Disney,
done, which I hope is
Dis,
not the case. But
Disney's shitting their pants right now because of how long they've had to
yeah,
keep the theme park
well,
closed.
that's the other thing too. Like, there's all this fear with DC that there's more talk now that AT&T now owns them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're looking at it more as, why do we have this publishing branch? They're not making us money.
Mm-hmm.
But the DC, of course, is trying to say, no, we're the idea house. We create
No,
ideas for you to turn into films, which will make more money in TV
Right.
shows.
As long as they own Warner Studios, they'll never flat out sell DC, though they might shutter the doors on the actual comic wing of it just to keep the intellectual
Right, the
property.
printing and
Or
right.
they'll,
Well,
or
they, of course, I've heard too. Maybe they'll outsource.
right. A lot of people have talked about them outsourcing to like a Boom Studios or an IDW.
That's
like
the thing,
Marvel
though,
has
too.
done.
Are the outsourcers going to be around after all this?
Well,
Are the
that
little
might have
guys
been the
gonna be
original
around?
plan, but the little guys actually have more staying power.
Who's
than
still
the
going to
big
be there?
guys.
Mhm.
The little guys have more staying power because they have less overhead.
Yeah, that's true. That's
if a
true.
Boom book doesn't come out for 2 or 3 months, fans are a little more forgiving than if you don't get your goddamn Batman.
Right.
Pun intended. But anyway,
Oh.
I agree with you. I think that honestly, I feel like this is the best and worst thing that could happen to Comicsgate right now. Uh, because without Diamond distribution, a lot of people are going to turn to independent comics, and without big publishers like Dynamite and IDW and Boom and everybody putting the books out that they normally do, without stores open to sell them, the direct market and the Indiegogo and the crowdfunding platforms are going to get a lot more attention. But as money starts to dry up, as the economy takes its hit, people are being very frugal right now. Not a lot of right now. A lot of
You
people
remind
are
me too of.
good.
I was gonna say you remind me too of after of course 9/11 and all the extra entertainment outlets took a big hit from that, particularly comic books, action figures, memorabilia type stuff. I think that was pretty much the point where you were talking McFarlane. He had all these figures he was pumping out for years, and then all of a sudden that just went away. I mean, it's just recently kind of coming back these last few years, but I'm pretty sure the reason why he stopped making so many of that is because he couldn't do anymore. That there wasn't
No,
enough people buying action figures, after 9/11, and enough people buying comic books and all these things.
McFarlane actually
And
made
this
a
is
pretty
kind of our
good.
next version of 9/11.
McFarlane made a really good business decision at 9/11. He made a deal with Major League Baseball, and he started putting out all of
Yes,
those
that
baseball
helped him out a lot.
figurines,
Yep.
and that
Hmm.
saved his
Yeah, he started
his action
concentrating on
figure.
licensed figures. Yeah.
Yeah, that saved his.
Yeah, but he discontinued the Spawn line for a while, and a lot of the other stuff he did until recently. He started being able to come back and do
Yeah.
some of these other properties. And he's just now starting to come out with new Spawn figures. But now this happens, and it's like, ish, that sucks. Because I haven't bought action figures in a while, but like I used to collect all the McFarlane, well, not all of them, but a lot of the McFarlane figures. I still have tons of them in storage, but because I loved all the Spawn and like the Tortured Souls figures he did, and all the different horror monsters and stuff. Um, but yeah, I think that we're going through a whole other, and that was not too long ago too. I mean, 9/11 shit. That was
20 years
oh
ago, son.
man,
Calm down.
yeah, that's crazy. To think about that we were just right there, and now here we are.
You were just starting to work on chaotic flux when 9/11 happened. Don't downplay it like it wasn't a long time ago.
Yep. Yeah, I was working at
I was a teenager
Sonic
back
at the
then.
time.
I
Yeah.
was a teenager back then. I was in creative writing class when it happened.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mr.
Yeah.
Scott Payne, thank you very, very much, sir. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so
putting
much
up
for
with
having me.
us. Ayrton, I know, is goddamn awful. He talked too much, cut you off way too many times during the interview. But I, your humble host, I feel like I'm just fucking around. No, I definitely appreciate it. I'm looking forward to Chaotic Flux and Chaotic Flux 2. Hopefully, I'll be able to pick both of those up in digital and be able to review them, because I'm pretty sure Ayrton's going to back the project. So I'll have to get in there with him so that we can do a proper review. As always,
I'll
I
have
would
to check the finances.
yeah. But as always, I would like to extend the invitation. You're more than welcome if you want to come back on anytime. Especially if you're wrapping the campaign, you want to come back on, do a final lap or whatever. Maybe we'll have a specific topic to talk about besides coronavirus by then. But
Right.
even if we don't, before you go, I do have the most important question of the night. I guess would come up. Do you remember the Obnoxio the Clown issue of X-Men?
I think I've seen the cover.
Okay, so there's a character,
if I remember right,
a
but
villain.
I think I've seen the cover.
There's a villain involved in that book that has the mutant power to turn himself into any flavor of ice cream,
including a banana split. Including a banana split.
Yes. His name is literally
Don't forget that part.
EYE Scream. I Scream.
You got me thinking about how how he's trying to pick up chicks, and by the way, I have the power to make myself taste like ice cream. You want to lick?
Yeah.
And it's
Fuck,
like, whoa.
fuck eating pineapples. I got ice cream powers, bitch. But Ayrton decided to select that character for our character showdown, whereas I picked the ever elusive, always iconic first woke warrior, Skate Man, to pit against
It's
him.
real as well.
You don't know about Skate Man? You call yourself
Oh,
a
I
comics
don't.
guy and you don't know about Skate Man? He's a racist white man who called a young Hispanic child the bean slur in the first 5 pages of his book. But he decided he would avenge migrant workers because he felt bad about being a terrible bigot, and strapped on some denim shorts and a cowl mask and some rollerblades, and put his martial arts and skating
Wow.
training to use. Uh, you gotta read Skate Man. I got a review copy I can send your way.
Sounds like it.
But yeah, you gotta read Skate Man. But just based on what I've told you, you've got a villain who's
Oh,
able to
gosh.
turn himself into any flavor of ice cream, including a banana split, and you have the one and only Skate Man, the woke warrior, the woke racist. In a fight between these two, who would you pick? Who would be your betting odds?
Okay, and Skate Man has no powers. He just skates.
No power. He's just he's a former. He did serve in Vietnam.
He's Batman on roller skates.
That's correct. Yes. He has martial art training. Well,
if he really was, does he actually have martial arts training?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the clown guy, all he has is he tastes like ice cream, and
no, he
that's
can
it,
turn
right?
himself
literally
into ice cream.
Oh, wow. Wow, that takes it to a whole new level now. I would say he just waits for him to turn ice cream and runs him over. I mean, with the skateboard.
Or Ayrton's
I
argument.
mean, I guess maybe the ice cream would.
Ayrton's argument is that he turns himself into a banana split, and the banana peel, does the old cartoon thing on skates, and he slips and gets a concussion.
Oh, maybe, but you don't need
he goes careening into traffic and get hit by a truck.
But you don't need a banana split with a banana peel. You take the peel off and put the banana in the split.
That's besides the point.
No, he's got a point.
That's not the point, Scott.
He's got you there. He's got you there, man. I win. I think you just said I win.
Well, you weren't clever enough to come up with that answer last night, so I still win.
I was entirely too drunk to come up with that answer last night, but I have help now. So you lose, as you lose at all things, including being on this show every week. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
I commend you guys for finding two of the worst characters ever to put against one another.
Oh no, don't worry. Next week I'm actually pulling a villain who is powered by cocaine.
So it's Scarface.
Well, what was his name? Snowflame.
Yes, Snowflame.
Yeah, Snowflame is from New Earth. He's a drug-powered supervillain who fought the New Guardians. He snorts cocaine and gets more powerful. I'm not even kidding. He's new universe material.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been reading comics for over 35 years at this point, or over 30 years at this point. Not quite over 35, but over 30 years at this point. So I've run across some terrible books. I've got what was it? The cockroach comic that I showed you, Ayrton? Roach Mill.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I've got that waiting in the wing to review. Yeah, I've read some terrible shit. My prized possession in my comic collection is a complete run of Rom Space Knight, because those are just pinnacle comics.
I've heard Rom was. I haven't read Rom, but I have heard it was.
It's fantastically
I've heard it was
bad.
good. Am I wrong? I mean,
no, it's great. I love it so much because it's kind of terrible.
Because a lot of people that I keep hearing, like I said, I haven't read them, but I keep hearing this outcry for a Rom movie or a TV show. I've seen that I don't know how many times. I don't know if people are joking, but
You should. We did a review of ROM. We did a review of the first 6 issues of ROM. If you want to get a feel for what ROM started, like it got good, but it started out as pretty ridiculous. It was a toy line tie-in for a toy that
Yeah,
failed,
I
but
knew
the
that.
books
Yeah.
didn't. Like the books ran for like 70 something issues, but the toy failed
Oh
miserably.
wow. Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, Mr. Scott Payne, thank you very much. Check out Chaotic Flux #2 on Indiegogo. Link in the description down below. Follow Mr. Scott Payne on Twitter. Plug your website and anything else you have going on.
You can check out sharpedgecomics.com. That's my I guess we can say my umbrella for all my projects. There's a lot of really cool info on there on Chaotic Flux, like character bios, lots of great art, as well as a preview for the first issue. I think it's a 10-page preview. There's also kinds of other things in there too, like you can issue one in there if you like as well. And then you can follow me at Flux Chaotic on Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram at Chaotic Flux 1. And then you can go, or you can like my my Facebook page at Sharp Edge Comics.
All right. And Ayrton,
All right.
you have anything else before we get out of here, son?
Good night, everybody.
There you go. There you go. There is one last thing. I'm not even gonna do it. You made it through the episode without getting fired. You did good. You did good. All right. So go ahead and close this up. Thank you everybody for coming out. Really appreciate it. We will see you again next week at some point and time. If I get laid off, we will have a show in the middle of the week. If I do not, it's up in the air. So we will figure it out and let you know as soon as we do. Thank you guys, and we will see you next time.